Halloween in the play space is like busy season.
Yeah.
It's like taxes are due.
When these two guys are like connecting over pleasuring the same person, it's like a very intense bond all over their socials. She talks about it all the time. She's wearing the MAGA hat. Would you want to have sex with her less?
Yes.
Why? Hi, Brian.
What's up, Layla?
Happy podcast day.
Happy podcast day.
How are you?
I'm great.
Yeah?
I'm really excited.
Why are
I'm
you
excited to be here with
excited?
you today.
Yeah.
We got a party coming up.
Yes.
I just had like a really fun trip to Vegas
Wait, how
to
was-
blow off some steam. And
When did you go to Vegas?
I went spontaneously a week and a half ago. And
Spontaneously.
it was a friend of mine did his 50th birthday.
Mhm.
And he bought a bottle, and he just texted people like, "Hey, do you want to come to Vegas?" For sure. So went to Vegas. Oh, I haven't told you this story yet, huh? Okay. So I'm going to Vegas. I drive in because we're in California. I drove into Vegas. And then I got there, and it's a 4.5 hour drive, right? So I pull out my phone. I'm like, I'm going to look at Instagram for a couple minutes. First story that pops up is from a girl who I've mentioned before that lives in the Bay. They're part of a couple, and she's single now. And so I saw her story, and it was a bunch of like bachelorette party looking type pictures in Vegas.
Oh.
In Vegas. And so I was like, oh man, I think she's in Vegas. And then almost simultaneously, she sends a text message to me and my wife. And it's like her almost like a half nude. And she's like, I got this room to myself in Vegas. I wish y'all were in town. Swear, like out of nowhere, it just happened, right? So I was like,
destiny.
oh snap, that's crazy. My wife's on a 24-hour shift, right? So I'm like, oh man, what do I do with this?
Oh, wait, so you went by yourself?
I went by myself.
Oh.
I went by myself, right?
Okay.
And we don't really play separately
Right.
unless we have like a pass or an agreement. 3 minutes later, I get a phone call from my wife.
Stop. And she gave you a pass. What is this world?
And she said, go for it. Have fun. Like, it's too good to pass up. She's already in Vegas. Have a blast. And so what ended up happening is like, I went to the nightclub. She had her own plans with her friends, but she just put my name on her room. And so I showed up at her room at like 7 a.m. or something like that. 7, I woke her up and just had to have fun for a couple hours.
Wait, you woke her up?
Yeah.
Stop. That is so hot.
And she loved it. It was like room service.
Was this the first time you hooked up with her?
Solo, yeah. Yeah.
It was fun?
Oh, it was a blast. It was a blast.
Oh
We
my God,
loved
that's
it. We
super cool.
recorded it a bit, and it was this hot video. I recorded this video of her saying thank you to my wife while we were playing. And then when I got home to LA, played with my wife, and she recorded one back. And so it's like this hot back and forth banter moment, but total spontaneous, do it for the plot type experience.
Do it for the plot.
So that was awesome. But one thing I noticed, and Layla, I know, okay, people. So for the past, 2 months, I've been wanting to get Layla to talk about something that she refuses to talk about. But we're going to bring it up right now because when I drove into Vegas, look, we live in California, and California is a very democratic state.
Mm-hmm.
And they just assume California is going blue, right? To be fair. So there isn't a ton of political capital spent in California, right?
Yeah.
At least for like the national stuff. For local stuff, yeah, but not for national stuff. If you drive to Vegas though right now, the minute you cross into Nevada, it is a completely different world. When you hear things about like Kamala Harris raised $1 billion, it could feel like, where is that money going? It's going to fucking Nevada. Because everywhere you go, it's like Trump, Harris. All the billboards are that. Every other commercial on TV is that. It's all over the place. And I realized something like there's a certain amount of like privilege or ignorance in a swing state that we get to have. Like occasionally we see people on the side of the road selling like Trump flags, right? Or Harris flags. I don't care what your opinions are. I'm just talking about the space in general. Yeah. But it's all over the place in Nevada. Have you been to a swing state recently?
No.
To see what that's like?
No.
It is like screwing your head nonstop.
Oh, wow.
And I could see how a person in a swing state is confused AF.
Yeah.
On what's real and what isn't, because there's so much information coming from so many different sources. And like it's on the casino floor. It's everywhere. Like they're doing everything they can to win this state. And it was my first time really seeing like what $1 billion on a campaign looks like.
Wow. Okay, yeah. I mean, like, what are the swing states? So, like, there's Nevada, or did you print something?
No, no, I
Oh, I
don't,
thought you
I
were getting a paper out.
don't, I don't know them all. I think it's like Nevada, Arizona. So I'm sure Arizona's like
Hmm.
this right now.
Isn't Georgia
Georgia,
swing
North
state?
Carolina.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so it kind of sucks because it makes us feel like we don't matter. Like, does my vote really matter? Because it's
I thought
really,
about that too. It's like I'm obviously going to vote, but I'm voting something different than what my parents are voting for, which is interesting. So on my birthday was, it was how I wanted to celebrate was to watch the debate with my family,
uh huh.
and we recorded the whole thing. It's
You recorded your
hilarious.
family watching it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was all of us watching it together. And me, my brother, his wife, my husband, we were all sitting there and we're on one side, my parents on the other side. And we have very different views for a lot of different things, but we're always very civil. Like it doesn't get heated.
Uh huh.
We don't argue. It doesn't make me love them less and vice versa. But it's really interesting because I'm asking my parents, I'm like, where are you getting your source of information? Right? And a lot of it is, you know, social media.
Right.
But same with me. Like I can't complain either because like
Right.
I'm getting
Right.
so much from social media too, or from the internet, or like I'm not sitting here reading the news. The media in general is just fucked, right?
Or
So
the
it's
text messages, all the unsolicited
yeah,
text. I'll be so glad when this is over
and the
because of all these texts.
emails and like
Yes.
all of that. And
Yeah.
so I truly want to be educated on this, right? Like I am down to hear both sides always. But like I don't know which source of media is right.
Yeah. I don't.
They're so
So
biased.
I don't think there is a right. I think it's just it's they pick and choose which information they want to give, which makes it hard. And
Mhm.
we're not going to do this whole episode about politics,
Yeah,
but
don't worry.
I do want to say this. So we're recording this a couple weeks. People were recording this a couple weeks before the election, and we'll
Mhm,
release it before the election
mhm.
happens. One thing I did learn though is that if you vote mail in, their systems know you voted. So I think all the text and mail and stuff will stop.
Oh, really?
They'll stop targeting you because they know you voted.
You've already
They want to use their money as efficiently as possible.
right.
So they're going to stop. So my wife and I were like, let's just do our ballots now so that we can stop the harassment because only they're
Oh.
allowed to harass. But look, okay, so when I was in Vegas,
Mm.
I ended up, Vegas is Nevada is where a lot of things were legal. Like sports gambling was only legal in Nevada. Now it's legal in most places. And then
Isn't
um,
prostitution legal?
so it's okay. Prostitution is not legal in the city limits of Las Vegas, but it happens. Escorting happens. And so I did talk to an escort. It is a friend of a friend. I wouldn't say this is a friend of mine, but it's a friend of a friend who I end up running into in Vegas when I go occasionally. And so I had a conversation with her about like all the Trump and Harris stuff. And it turns out that this escort is a huge Trump supporter, like
Mhm.
massive Trump supporter. It's on her. I didn't follow her on Instagram at a time. Now I do. And so I see like there's posts of Trump on her Instagram. I was shocked by that. I
Mhm.
think I was shocked that you're a person who works in the sex work industry,
Right.
right? Which puts you at a high risk of like unwanted pregnancy, I'm
Right.
guessing.
Right.
But then you're pro Trump and they are also like pro, I don't know, like anti abortion. So when I was kind of confused about that and I was like, man, that doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Well, it's not that they're I mean, this is so hard to talk about, but it's not that it's not that Trump and his administration's anti-abortion. They want to leave it up to the states, right? So I imagine that maybe Nevada would still allow abortions, perhaps, right? So it's like they want it to be they want the states to make that decision and not like a federal decision, right? Whereas Kamala and that administration want to make it kind of like a blanket thing. Am I
Mhm.
am I right in that? I feel
I,
like I'm still kind of learning the ins and outs.
I think so, but you have no idea what people are going to want to do when they get into power, right? So I like they did a whole job on Roe v. Wade to get that overturned, right?
Mm,
But it started me thinking on like, I think I was going into this assumption that, and I don't know if you know this, but like, do you know the breakdown of LGBT and their political set, like what would you guess most LGBT
Liberal.
people
Liberal.
are liberal,
I would
right?
imagine. Well, yeah.
Right.
Right?
Why would you imagine that?
Well, I mean, there's just off the top of my head, like trans individuals, right? And like that they, gender neutral bathrooms. And those that are conservative are like, oh no, because of whatever the fuck. Like they don't want gender neutral bathrooms or, reassignment surgery or gay rights. Like they don't want two men getting married or so.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I would imagine that they're going to be more liberal, right?
Because usually their rights are under attack from the other side,
Right.
right? All right, so I read this crazy stat, and
Oh God.
I'm gonna give a couple stats here, right? So I
Okay.
with
Okay.
trans people in general,
Oh, okay.
I read that only 2% of them identify as Republican or conservative,
That makes sense.
which makes sense, all right?
Yeah.
But then I looked this up. I got data, people.
All
Okay,
right.
so LGBT voters, 50% of them are Democrat, 15% are Republican. So it actually is pretty solid. The rest are like independent or other. Okay.
Okay.
But in that space, there is this like clear, like, yes, you're right. Because of their rights and how they've been attacked mostly by one side, most of them lean more liberal. Right.
Mhm.
Okay. It made me wonder what the play space would be.
Oh. Well, do
We,
you
we-
think that it would really affect our community? Well, I guess, I mean, like, I don't, I don't know. What do you, I don't know.
I think that to some extent, like, no one's out there fighting for swinger rights or like non-monogamous, like no one is like on Capitol Hill. Like these people, even though like I think it's a pretty significant voter base, right? You heard it here first, politicians. It is a pretty significant voter base. But I think the swinger space or the non-monogamous space is like being at a baseball game, right?
Mhm.
Like if you're rooting for the Yankees, you don't in that moment, you're high-fiving people because the Yankees scored a point. You don't really care what their political views or anything like that
Right.
is, right? Or it's like the Olympics, like you're just rooting for the US. It doesn't all of a sudden we're united
Mhm.
in rooting for Simone Biles. I think the play space is kind of like that. If I'm just trying to play with someone, I'm not currently worried about their political views. And so I think it doesn't come up as much, but it did make me wonder. Like, I wonder if there was a political group around the play space, would it be more liberal or conservative? What do you think?
Hold on. First, I have a question.
Uh huh.
So let's say, because there are some individuals on both sides that make, I'll just use the Trump side, for example, where they will make their political views their identity.
Uh huh.
So if you were to be like on a date with someone, like a girl, and they have made Trump their identity, it's all over their socials. She talks about it all the time. She's wearing the MAGA hats. Like, would you want to have sex with her less?
Yes.
Why?
Okay. Well, wow. That's I automatically assume she's not going to want to date me because there's something in my mind that also creates that that equates some of that with racism or underlying racism
Mm,
because of what their rhetoric is or who it points at. So in general, I would just swipe left because like as a black male, like I don't like, and I know there's a lot of more black men voting for Trump. That's a whole nother thing.
mhm.
I think that has to do with like sexuality in black culture, but um, uh, yeah, I wouldn't even swipe right on that person. Uh, ooh, that is tough. But I also don't think I would go out with someone on the far left either.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
My co-founder, when he started working with me, he was like, you are way more moderate than I thought you were going to be.
Hmm.
I'm just kind of in the middle about things. Like I am both it, like I had a really hard time with, gender norms.
Go on.
So I do this personal development work, and
Mhm.
I'm often speaking in front of like 100 people at a time or 200 people at a time, and it is really challenging in that with so many pieces, so many things happening, something might slip out where I say, "Hey, you guys,"
Oh, I see.
and there was this culture for a while of like someone in the room would immediately like make you wrong for using the term guys,
Uh-huh.
or in a room of 200 people, I didn't specifically remember that you are a they them.
Uh-huh.
And I think that it was really hard and it was alienating for people like me, where it's like generally I might consider myself more liberal, but even that was like, man, you're putting so much pressure on me in this moment when I'm trying to work with like 200 people in the room
Right.
to remember your specific preferences.
Right.
And I would see my speech patterns would change where I just stopped referring to everyone by their gender.
Mhm.
Right. And I saw other trainers go through the same thing. And I think that was a tough transition for us. And it was just so hard. And so I've seen the challenge coming from like anything when it's like on the far bookends of things, it's going to make it really hard on everybody else.
Mhm.
And so I don't know. Would you agree with that? Is that
No, I understand that. I do understand that. I think if you were maliciously not using they, them for somebody that's their pronouns, if you were doing it maliciously because you're like, if you're in a small group or having a one-on-one conversation and you like refuse to use they, them, you're a fucking asshole.
you are? But I felt like there wasn't a lot of room for mistakes
I understand.
or errors. And when people got really unhealthy with it, and if there's anything I've learned in the personal development space, is whatever your beliefs are, you are going to find it. You will find more evidence of it. So if you are the gender norm police, you will find instances of people misusing gender
Mhm.
and you will call it out. But you're the only one noticing it because that's what your radar is up for. And
Right.
we're all like that in a bunch of different things,
Right.
right? And I just think that when you're on the bookends of, do you get what I'm saying when I'm saying you're on the bookends
Yeah.
of
Yep.
views, like your alert is up to make other people wrong
Okay. Yeah.
because of, based on where you're coming from.
Right. And do you think that makes people feel more powerful to say, no, you shouldn't say you guys. Do you think it makes them like it gives them something?
Like what you're asking me what the reward is
Mhm.
for that. I think they get to be right.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think you get to be right. And I think in that moment you get to be a victim to it too.
Mm.
You are wronging me, which is making me the center of attention that was on me.
Mhm.
And so it can be a little self-serving. It's not very empathetic towards the person. Now, like that person may be trying. And here's what I'll also say about the trainers. Most of the other trainers I work with in the personal development space are white men
Mm.
and women.
Mm.
I felt like I got more leeway because I'm a person of color.
Really? Okay. So, okay, that's interesting. So, is there anything else that might surprise me about your beliefs?
About my beliefs?
Yeah,
What did
regarding
I
like not that it surprises me that you get a little uncomfortable with the they them or hey you guys or things like that. Like I understand that and I can agree with that. How else are you moderate that might surprise me? Like are you like pro-life or like is
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I'm pro-choice.
okay.
That is I tend to be more like what I do find is that people that tend to be in the middle, they tend to be more liberal on like personal choices and more conservative on financial things.
Yeah. No, I would say I probably lean into that a
And
little bit
so I
more.
want to go back to the escort. Here's a theory that I have, and I don't know this to be true. If you believe that the Trump economy had more money flowing in it than the Biden economy,
Mhm.
and your business is based on people paying you for sex services,
Mhm.
I could see why you would be pro Trump. Because if more money's flowing, that means that more clients have money to pay for your services.
Well, yeah, I mean, fuck, I guess that's true, huh? That makes sense.
It does. I was trying to logic. I was like, now look, I don't know if her entire it might be a more of an emotional decision, not logical, but I was
Mhm.
trying to apply logic to it. Am I like way off base?
No, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I I just God, there's so much I wanna say, but,
Layla's
like,
scared to
I am
talk about this.
so terrified of people that lean really far a particular way. I think, like, they s they scare me, like, truly scare
People
me.
that lean too far one direction or the other.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's fair for you to be afraid.
yeah. Like, I think no matter who wins, I think it's gonna be really scary.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, we're so divided right now. I think whoever wins, I think it's probably gonna I think, one over the other, maybe more so, but, I imagine it's just gonna, like, really continue to keep us divided. That's all I'll say.
That's all you're gonna say?
That's all I'm gonna
Well, I will say
say.
this. I
If it
think
was
that
just me and you at
I
lunch, I'll say more, but
I will say this. I don't know this, and there'll probably never be any sort of data run on this, but I
Mhm.
do think that we live in California, so like, of course, most of the people in the lifestyle space are probably going to be liberal because
Yeah.
we're in a more liberal state. If we were in, I don't know, Texas, it might be very different. And I bet that culture is very different. I think on the whole, though, when you think about people that are doing some sort of alternative lifestyle or going against the norm,
Mhm.
that tends to be more liberal than conservative. So I think it would fall that way, but who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? I just think it's interesting that it'll never come up. Here's the other thing. If I stopped a play party to make an announcement, I said, "Hey, you guys," I don't think anyone would come at me like that.
Right. Right.
Right?
No.
And that's for the same reason. There's just a lot more acceptance in that space. And we're going to a party in a couple days. Like I wonder,
Yay! The biggest party of the year, the
it
Halloween party.
it is.
Biggest party of the year.
Are you pumped?
I'm so excited. I'm gonna be on my period.
Yeah.
Typical. But that's fine. Would you still have sex with me when I was on my period? It's gonna be like day 2 period though, so probably not.
See, and as a guy, I don't even know what that means. Does that mean is that like is that the
Yeah.
heaviest time?
Yeah. So day 1's pretty heavy, but I feel like day 2, it's like,
I'll be honest, I've done it recently with people at parties that are on it, and I don't know. It depends on with you probably with like a first timer or something.
yeah.
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. But I am excited about the party. I've never been to one of these Halloween parties.
Wait. What?
And for people that don't know this, Halloween in the play space is like busy season.
Yeah.
It's like taxes are due, right? Like everybody's out and going. It's already a costume heavy culture and a costume heavy holiday.
We love a theme.
And then, just like in business, like Thanksgiving and Christmas are coming, and then you hibernate and come back in New Year's, right?
Yep.
So this is it. This is the peak of
yeah.
all
This
the
is what
workouts you've been
we
doing.
get ready for this all year. We've been working out, eating good, like hydrating, taking our vitamins this week. I mean, this is it. This is the party of the year. There's gonna be, do you know how many people?
No.
160.
How do you feel about that?
So as someone who struggles with claustrophobia, I'm a little nervous. I think they're tenting the backyard though.
They're putting tents up and they're opening up the back house.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's going to be helpful. But you've seen me at parties where I need to like take a step back, like outside, get some fresh air. Like I will have to do that probably multiple times at the party. But I'm really excited. I just hope that I meet some new people that I'm actually like really attracted to. I feel like we have like the most attractive and the coolest people already in our community. And I'm ready for some like new friends to kind of bring some value.
Some new people.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet some new people and maybe play with some new people.
I think that's their goal. They want people to meet new people.
Yeah.
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 What's been interesting for me also is I've got not an overwhelming amount, but I've got a couple texts or messages from people that are like, "Hey, are you going this weekend? I've never played with you, would love to."
Oh, cute.
And that's been really nice.
That's really sweet and cute. I didn't get any texts like that.
It might not happen. I'm encouraging it. By the time this comes out, the party will be over.
Yeah, it'll have that.
But I do want to encourage that behavior. Like if there is someone, but like let them know. There's no guarantee it'll happen at that party because it's it's like a boxing match and whatever plan you had.
You
just
may
goes
never
out the
see them
window.
all night.
Right. You may exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But just to put that out there, also because 160 people can feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
100 people feels uncomfortable, maybe even 50 for some people. And so to give someone somewhere to go initially, like, hey, I want to play with you, that's really nice. It takes a lot of pressure off of someone.
Yeah, I think that's really cute.
I did text you though.
You did actually. Okay, but this is the cutest thing. So not only like you didn't say, "Oh, let's play, oh, let's fuck." You were so precious. You were like, "Can we just take, even if it's just 10 minutes, can we cuddle?" Wet. Like, I think that's the cute cuddle. Like, how precious. Like, I feel that just made me feel like loved and it makes me want to fuck you more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Why are you giving everyone my lines?
So yeah, just text the girls that you want. Just say, "Hey, can we just take 10 minutes to cuddle?" And they'll be like, "Oh my God, he's the best."
Yeah, I would like just say, "Hey, can we connect? Like, let's link up. Like, let's take some time to hang out."
What inspired you to text me to say that?
Someone else had done it to me. And I was like, man, that was really nice. And I even mentioned it to my wife, and she was like, then that's really nice of them to say that. And I know people feel anxious, but also it's just genuine for me. Like I like hanging around. I like a mix of new and people that I know. And you and I don't, in spite of us being on the show all the time, we don't physically connect a lot.
No, we really don't. Like we physically connected maybe like 4 or 5 times and have had sex like two times.
Exactly.
Like, that's
Exactly.
crazy because we
Exactly.
have a great chemistry and we
Gee.
want it.
Yeah.
But usually when the show's over, it's like, I got to beat rush hour to make it
Uh-huh.
way down south,
For sure.
you
I
know?
gotta go to the gym, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tale as old as time. I got to go to the gym. Remember when you were proud of me for going to the gym?
I was. You did it for
I
like a
haven't gone. I
week.
haven't
I
gone
know.
since. What do you mean you know?
You would have kept telling
I know
me.
I would have. I like
So you stopped going.
I like praise.
But I'm excited. You're on my short list. We'll see how many people on
Do
the
you have
short list
do you
I
have
get
like an
through.
open pass?
At the party?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Parties are great.
Okay, so this is what's interesting about this party too, because usually this organizer doesn't require STI testing prior,
Hmm.
and this time they requested it,
They did.
which I thought was pretty cool.
I think it was a huge step. It was a
Yeah.
debate for them too. They were like, they didn't know if they should do it. They didn't really want to be responsible for it, but people feel safer
Mhm.
that way. And, I had a one-on-one with this person and I was like, anyone who is unwilling to do it probably shouldn't be there anyway. You're not asking that much from them.
Right,
And honestly, they should be doing it anyway.
right,
Right? It's like at any given point, you can message me and say, hey, do you have negative test results in the last 3 months? And I will have it already.
right.
So it wasn't even that crazy. So I love that they did it and that they held that standard and it wasn't that hard.
Yeah,
There are plenty of ways to figure it out unless you waited till the last minute.
right, which I did. So that's why I couldn't go to AHF, which it's free. I had to go to a different website, order it, and then go to Quest and do all this stupid bullshit. But my results come in. I just checked, hasn't come in yet, but it's supposed to come in today. So we'll see if I'm good to go.
Good.
We'll
Good for
see.
you.
But my husband got his this morning and it was all good. So I imagine I'm probably fine.
And it's just one less question that people have to ask now when they hang out.
Right, right. It does eliminate that extra step. Are you going to use condoms earlier?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Always. That's
One day, can we have sex without a condom?
you
Because I don't mind the condom. You don't like it. I want you
What
to
do you
feel.
mean?
You say that it feels better without a condom, right?
Of course it does.
Okay, I want you to have sex with me when it feels the best.
Okay. Not at a party. That
Okay.
is an agreement that my partner and I have is like no unprotected sex at parties.
I understand that. I totally understand that. But whenever I want to hook up, it doesn't happen. Why?
She's less concerned about it than I am. That's my own paranoia. So you always ask, like, how have I gotten this far in the E&M space without catching an STI? This is how. It is my own paranoia. And look, here's the honest background is that I had an uncle who in the 90s died from AIDS.
I didn't know that.
And I don't tell people that.
Oh,
And
shit.
so I don't like one of my worst fears in life has been my mother having to have a conversation with my mother where I tell her that I'm like positive for something.
Okay.
So I think that level of paranoia, like that worst nightmare has made me strap up more than probably the average guy in my life. And so I don't have kids, like unwanted. I didn't have unwanted pregnancies and I didn't have,
Yeah.
STIs because of that.
Okay, that makes sense. What if I provided you test results?
Look, I am less worried about it than you think. Like you're a married person, you get tested a lot. I think in a controlled environment where it's just like the two of us or it's, the four of us, I'm not as worried about it.
Would we be ever able, just me and you?
Yeah, for sure. It's a conversation to have with my partner. So
Oh, never considered that. Or like you and my husband. That's my favorite is MFM.
with
Two guys.
Okay.
That's my favorite. I feel like so worshipped. And also my husband and that other guy, like they really connect, like what Jackie said in the last episode. Like when these two guys are like connecting over pleasuring the same person, it's like a very intense bond,
It is.
That'd be really cute. I think I'd really,
Again, it's like totally up to my part. I'm turning
know.
red here. That is you have the conversation. This is what I do to Layla.
Oh, you
all
want
the
me to
time,
call your
people.
wife?
I'm like,
I
when
call
she
your
asks
wife.
me to do something, I'm like, why don't you do it? How about you make the call? What else is on your mind
Yeah.
today?
So something that we've like, we had a debate about this last week and we were like, let's save it for the pod. You think that some people are using the play space to avoid. And I want you to talk about that. And I will tell you why I think you're wrong. Ready, go.
Wow. Why don't you tell me why you think you're wrong?
No.
Why you think I'm wrong?
No, you go first.
Look, I I'm not trying to be right about this either, okay? But like my job is to run personal development trainings. And
Mhm,
so I notice patterns,
mhm,
right? And I think that sex being like people get addicted to all sorts of stuff. They get addicted to drugs, alcohol, porn, sex, gambling,
mhm.
anything like that, right? And so and I've said this probably on the podcast, right? My whole gym analogy, right? If someone's at the gym every time you go to the gym, they're at the gym more than you,
Right.
right? And they're there when you're not there to see them. And so I kind of feel the same way about play parties. Like if someone is at every play party I go to, they go to more play parties than I do. And when I start to think about people that like the space, it's there for fun and it adds to your life and things like that. And so I get all the benefits of it. But I do start to get curious around people who go to like 3 play parties a week,
Mhm.
2 to 3 play parties a week, or like one pops up on a Tuesday and they're also there.
Okay.
And I start to wonder, like, okay, are they using this to like supplement for something else or to make up for something? Are they shirking other responsibilities in their life to be at this play party? Right. Because these play parties go to like 2 in the morning, right?
Mhm,
So if you're at a play party at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday and you have work at like 7 a.m. on a Wednesday, like how are you actually making that work out?
mhm,
And so to some extent, I typically addictive. I mean, you've worked in addiction a lot, right?
mhm,
It's like if there is an addiction, then there probably is some level of like avoidance of whatever the underlying issue is.
mhm,
Now you think that I'm wrong and that people won't, but what I also said was,
mhm,
unlike most addictions, like you can have a porn addiction and it's private. You can have a strip club addiction and it's private. You can have a gambling addiction and just go to different casinos and no one will know that you're there every day. But with a community like this, like if you are at parties nonstop, like it is a default public
right,
thing.
right.
Yeah.
So how I see it is like if someone is going to 3 parties a week forever, if they're able to maintain and balance their life appropriately, they're still able to be a good father, a good partner. Their work is well, they're doing well mentally. Like, if I think that that's absolutely possible. What if most parties start at like 9 o'clock. What if they stay until 11, midnight? They see their people, they see their friends, maybe they have sex, maybe they don't, and then they go home, sleep, go to work at 8. Like, I think that there's people that we know that do that, that are living fulfilling lives. But you're talking about the ones that are avoiding and maybe are missing work or maybe are, not maybe neglecting their kids or like, you know what I mean? So I think that there's two sides to the coin here.
Hmm.
Um, so I think we were talking, there was like a particular person or two that you were talking about where you're like, I see them at every single thing that I go to. And I think that they have a problem. And I have never walked into a party and seen someone and been like, I think that they have a problem. Like, I think they're a sex addict or that they go to too many parties. Like, that's never crossed my mind. But for you and your partner,
Okay.
it crosses your mind often.
But if you saw someone drinking and every time you saw them, they were drunk, like as someone who's dealt with a lot of substance abuse, would it
Mhm.
cross your mind that this person might have an alcohol issue?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
So I think like we don't think this about most people, but there are some people, and what I'll add to this is like my partner went out of her way to have a conversation with one of these people, not about this,
Oh,
but
okay.
just kind of curious, and like that person themselves was like, yeah, I keep going to these parties, but like work's not going that well, and like I can't find a partner, and blah 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 blah, and like so it they kind of revealed that they know they should be doing some other stuff than being here, but they're here. And so
Oh.
it's kind of interesting because when you said everything you just said, it was like, of course, there are people that handle it responsibly. And of course, there are people that are irresponsible in it, just like
Mhm.
everything else in life.
Mm. I mean, that makes sense, but like, I don't think I've ever seen someone and been like, you again? But do you?
Yeah. Okay. Because man, whoo, man. So
Give us the tea.
look, my personality type is that of a debater. So I will look for problems and challenges and take them on. And if there's not a problem or challenge to take on, I will create the problem and then I'll take it on.
You love the
I'm a
drama.
great. It's not like I love that. I love attacking things. So like I'm a great guy to have in like a natural disaster. Like I give me a bunch of problems. Like it's kind of weird. Like my dream. It's gonna sound weird, but like I love zombie apocalypse shows because I'm
Mhm.
like, man, that's such a simple life. Just like survive and eat.
Oh, I'd kill myself.
See, I'm not like that. It would feel like such a game to me. Why would you kill yourself? You could survive.
No, I don't wanna try.
That is
No.
so and this is where we're such opposites.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so then if we're opposites here, then yes, that is why I notice patterns.
Yeah.
They
No, the second anyone comes on the radio, on TV, zombies are here. We're all like, it's time. Done. 100%. No, I'm not living in fear.
You're not on
I refuse to live in fear. I refuse to live in stress. Remember, I'm in fight or flight 24/7, right? According to my brain scans, I'm always fight or flight and it's miserable. If you're going to add a zombie apocalypse, before the words
But
have
see,
even exited their mouth, I have offed myself.
but you are in fight or flight when there's nothing to fight or flight from.
Right. Right. Give me something to fight or flight from
I
and
think the zombie
dead.
apocalypse would give you that.
You don't know me very well.
It would be logical for you to be in fight or flight in that time.
No, I'm not attempting. It's not happening.
The point is though that like I look my mind's my the way my brain works
Mhm.
is I notice things that are out of place.
Sure.
You know, it's like an OCD thing almost. Like I'll
Mhm.
notice like the pin across the room or like the piece of
Mm.
lint on your shirt. Like I can't not notice those things. It's like my eyes looking for perfection, and anything that is not that, I'll notice it. Right.
Interesting. Okay.
And so when it comes to the play space, yes, I will notice patterns of behavior.
Mhm.
So I will notice like if a guy's come to 5 parties in a row by himself and hasn't brought a date, I may not say anything about it, but I noticed it. I'm
Interesting.
not even keeping score like consciously, but it'll come to me and I'll be like, you know what? The last 5 times they didn't bring a date.
That's so interesting because I feel like when I'm at a party, I'm not, this sounds fucked up. I'm not really thinking or noticing other people. I'm thinking about myself
Yeah, I'm not that way.
or my partner. Like, I'm not thinking about, oh, you again. Oh, did they bring a partner last time? No, I guess they didn't. Like, that's just such an interesting way to think and live life. And it's nothing wrong with that. It's just interesting and it's just not the way that I
Oh,
think.
it's so hard. It's like
Yeah.
I see everything. Like, and I've been trained to like walk into a room.
Yeah.
Like as a trainer, it's like walk into the room. Your eyes are on everything,
Yeah.
any pattern, anything you notice, because later you might have to use that to help someone
Mhm.
grow or break through something.
Well, it's interesting.
Now-
A couple weeks ago, you called me and you went, Layla, are you spiraling? And I went, oh, what? You're like, are you doing okay? I was like, no. How did you know that
and then I
wasn't
gave a
doing
bunch of
okay?
examples of things
Yeah.
I noticed.
Yeah, which were so interesting. So that's cool. But like, I also imagine that gives you kind of this level of anxiety or perhaps like a level of judgment.
Oh, for sure. Judgment. I'm very judgmental. The personal development space just gave me a place to use that judgment for good. I would absolutely admit that happens. And the other thing is, I'm not a coach in the play space.
Right.
I'm not a play coach at all. I'm not going to coach your relationship. When people ask me to be their relationship coach, I say no. I don't want to touch relationships
No, I wouldn't either.
at all. I'm not going to say anything to this person. I might notice the pattern. It's not my job to call it out.
Right.
And I don't. People are welcome to debate this in the comments with us. Or if I see a pattern like that, am I responsible for it? I'm not your best friend. I'm not your partner. I see it. It's not for me to say anything about until you say it to me or ends up impacting my relationship. Then I'll say something about it.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But I noticed it.
Right. Right.
So I would say that, all right. So like my stance is that people will use this to avoid because they'll use anything they can to avoid
Mhm.
handling life shit. And now, have I enrolled you into believing that, or do you still believe that this space is like, you know,
I think
clean from that?
anybody can use anything in excess that isn't healthy for them. Anything. They could
Mhm.
be addicted to buying chairs and it could impact their life in a negative way. So yes, is it possible? Abso-fucking-lutely. But for me personally, I've never noticed it with anybody in our particular friend group and was like worried about their well-being because they go to a lot of parties.
Now, I'm not worried about their well-being. I'm just, I hear you. I'm not worried about the well-being. The trainer in me goes to like, I'm worried about whether they're getting what they want out of life right now.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Because the thing about it is like, if like, you know, this, like if you stay addicted to the alcohol, the other stuff, it's not like the problems fix themselves. They just get like worse and worse and worse. The parking tickets don't go away. They don't vanish.
So what should people perhaps that are like going to these parties that are trying to escape something, what advice would you give to them?
I don't have any advice for them. I like,
No, we just judge here, but we don't give
nah, I
advice.
mean, I
I'm just kidding.
there is a, if you are addicted to something, you're the addiction specialist, not
I know, that's
me.
what I wanted to hear.
I think that like the first step is admitting you have a problem. I think like there
Mhm.
needs to be some level of self-awareness. You have to pause at some point and look at the number of parties you've been going to and maybe wonder like, what is my wife doing at home when I'm at all these parties? Like, is like, if she's at home sleeping, like, is she sleeping great those nights? Like, I think there's a certain level of like empathy or getting outside yourself. You have to see and look at the impact you might be having on others through your behavior
Mhm.
to kind of shake you from it. That's probably where I would start. But if they don't think there's a problem, then like, I mean, there's nothing for them to look at.
Right.
So this is where feedback is so powerful. Like feedback, the whole purpose of feedback is to tell you things you don't see from the outside.
Mhm.
But it has to come from people that like love you and care about you and like really want you to succeed.
Like, I try to never give feedback or advice unless it is asked, and that's very Al-Anon, which
Uh-huh.
Jackie was talking about, and I wanna
Uh-huh.
talk about on the next episode when we do our one-on-one.
Okay.
Um, it's very Al-Anon. I don't give advice unless it's asked, or if it is absolutely urgent, I think that it's like a life-altering thing, then I will ask, "May I give you, some advice? Would you like some advice?"
Right.
Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. If they say yes, then I'll provide that. But usually, like if I'm seeing something happening in front of me where I'm like, "Oof, God, they could really fucking use some advice," because if they're not in a place to receive it, you're wasting your time and you're making that person possibly resent you.
Okay, but see, I think feedback and advice are different.
Oh, okay. What's different?
Advice is like, hey, here's what you should do. And that's why when you ask me, do I have advice for them? I don't have advice for them because I don't know what you should do. My feedback is like, the way you're showing up to me in my space is this. What I'm seeing, so you might say, like, my experience of you is this, or the way you show up to me is this. But that's what I'm seeing from you. That's not truth with a capital T. That's
Mhm,
not who you are. That's just what I'm experiencing in your space.
mhm.
And so I'm experiencing, like the facts are, I see you at every party I go to, fact. Um, my experience of that is like like what I'm adding into that is like, hey, you might be using that to avoid, but I would never say that because I don't know that to be true.
Right.
So it is interesting. Now, I would only give someone feedback if I like really, really cared about, like I really have to care about that person to give
Yeah.
them feedback. So I'm not going to give them feedback. I mean, but people feel free to go in the comments and man, that's going to get messy. Cause I don't
Yeah,
know
you
these
guys give
people like
Brian some
that.
feedback.
I'm not telling them to give me
No.
feedback. So let me.
Oh, we gotta wrap it up. We're getting the
All
sign.
right. All right. So I think to wrap this subject up, I think, of course, people can use this to avoid just
Mhm.
like any other space, but I don't think it's always our job to call that out for them
Right. It's not
because
our job at all, period.
we may not, yeah, we may not know. We don't know what's going on in their life.
Right.
And like that's where some grace comes in.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love you.
I love you too.
I'm excited to cuddle on Saturday.
I probably noticed it because I do care. Fuck.
See?
I do care about
You
them. I
you
care about
love.
them enough to notice the pattern.
You love so deeply.
Shit.
You love so deeply.
Now I see now, and that's worse because now I have to be like, now I care. Now I'm responsible for it.
No,
We're
you're
gonna
not.
wrap
No,
this
you're
up,
not. Don't
guys.
stop. We're going to Al-Anon right now. We're going.
Thanks for hopping in on another episode. We're clearly not done talking about this, but it's a one-on-one thing. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done it yet. If you want to keep getting content like this, and until we see you next time, try something or try someone new.